Don't chase anything. Let everything come to you. Buddhist teachings. In a world obsessed with speed, achievement, and the relentless pursuit of goals, the teachings of the Buddha remind us of something profoundly different: the art of stillness, trust, and surrender. To not chase anything is not a call to passivity, but rather an invitation to understand the flow of life at its deepest level. In Buddhism, the idea of non-chasing, of letting things come to you naturally, is rooted in the understanding of impermanence and the law of cause and effect. Every moment, every encounter, every loss, and every blessing arrives when it is meant to, neither earlier nor later. We are conditioned to believe that if we stop running, we will fall behind. Society teaches us to pursue success, love, recognition, enlightenment. But the Dharma teaches otherwise. True peace arises not from control, but from harmony, not from grasping, but from letting go. The lotus does not chase the sun. It simply opens when the light reaches it. Similarly, the awakened soul lives in a rhythm of trust, patience, and faith that everything meant for it will arrive at the precise moment it should. In this reflection, we will explore 5 essential teachings from Buddhism that help us live this truth. We will discover that by releasing our attachment to results, we invite the natural unfolding of life. We will see how presence replaces impatience, how gratitude transforms desire, and how inner alignment makes external chasing unnecessary. The wisdom of non-attachment. Letting go to truly receive chasing is another form of clinging. When you run after something, a dream, a relationship, a status, or even spiritual enlightenment, what truly drives that chase is attachment. You believe that the object of your desire holds the key to your happiness. You tell yourself, once I have that, I will finally be complete. But the Buddha taught that clinging is the root of all suffering. When we attach ourselves to external outcomes, we hand over our peace to forces we cannot control. Non-attachment is not indifference, it is wisdom. It is knowing that all things, pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, are transient. They come and go like clouds passing through an open sky. You are not meant to hold on to them. The awakened mind observes, but does not grasp. It flows, but it does not cling. It loves deeply, but does not demand permanence. When you stop chasing, you begin to see that what you truly seek is not out there. The object of desire is merely a mirror reflecting an inner longing, the desire to feel whole. But you already are whole. The illusion of lack keeps you running. The Buddha described it as thirst, tanha, the craving that binds beings to the cycle of suffering. The moment you recognize that you are chasing illusions, you begin to awaken. Think of water. When it is still, it reflects the moon perfectly. But when disturbed, the reflection breaks into chaos. Similarly, when the mind is agitated by craving, it cannot see clearly. When the mind is calm and unattached, truth reveals itself effortlessly. This is why the path of non-chasing is the path of inner peace. Life unfolds according to causes and conditions, a teaching known as pratyasamutpada, or dependent origination. You cannot force a fruit to ripen before its time. You cannot demand a flower to bloom in winter. Everything has its rhythm, and your role is to walk in harmony with that rhythm, not against it. To let go is to trust. To trust is to live in the present moment, where all peace resides. You stop asking, when will it come? And instead say, I am ready for whatever this moment brings. In that readiness, life begins to give you exactly what you need. Not always what you want, but what will help you awaken. When you let go of the chase, you also let go of fear. The fear of not getting what you want or losing what you have. You understand that nothing truly belongs to you, not even your breath. Everything is borrowed, everything is flowing, and everything returns. This understanding opens your heart to gratitude. You stop clinging to outcomes and start appreciating experiences. The great Zen master Shunryu Suzuki once said, "When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you." That is the essence of this teaching. When you stop chasing, you stop suffering. You start receiving life with open hands, unburdened and unafraid. So ask yourself, what are you chasing right now? Is it love, validation, peace, or success? And can you, for a moment, stop running toward it and simply breathe? Because the truth is this: what is meant for you is already on its way. You do not need to chase it. You only need to be aligned enough to receive it. If you find this message resonating deeply with your heart, remember, wisdom grows when it is shared. Subscribe to the channel and continue walking this path of awareness and inner freedom with us. The law of flow. When you stop forcing, life begins to move. Everything in existence follows a natural rhythm. The tides rise and fall without being pushed, seasons shift without being commanded, and the wind changes direction without resistance. In Buddhism, this harmony of movement and stillness is known as the law of flow, the understanding that all things unfold according to their own time and nature. The human mind, however, often rebels against this flow. It wants to control, predict, and shape reality according to its desires. It clings to an imagined timeline, demanding that life align with its preferences. But the more you force, the more friction you create. When you push too hard against the current of life, you exhaust yourself and lose the very peace you are seeking. The law of flow teaches us that the more you let go of control, the more aligned you become with the universal intelligence that governs everything. When you stop chasing outcomes and start trusting the process, life begins to move naturally through you. You no longer have to swim upstream against the current of what is. You begin to understand that flow is not about inactivity. It is about movement without resistance. It is the art of doing without forcing, Wu Wei, as expressed in Taoist philosophy, closely aligned with Buddhist wisdom. It is the balance between effort and surrender, between discipline and acceptance. The Buddha often used the metaphor of the river to describe the journey of life. The river does not resist obstacles, it simply flows around them. When it meets a rock, it does not stop in anger or frustration. It adapts, bends, and continues. In doing so, it carves valleys and nourishes lands. This is the nature of flow, quiet, humble, yet immensely powerful. When you live according to this principle, you stop seeing obstacles as enemies and start seeing them as part of the riverbed that shapes your growth. Most people suffer because they live in a state of inner resistance. They want things to be different from what they are. They say, "I should be further along," or "This shouldn't have happened to me," or "Why hasn't my dream come true yet?" These thoughts are all forms of resistance. They cut you off from the present moment, which is the only place where true power and peace reside. Life cannot flow through you if you are constantly trying to redirect it toward your expectations. You must learn to let it move as it needs to, and to trust that whatever happens is serving your awakening. When you stop forcing, you begin to listen. You notice subtle signals, synchronicities, and intuitions that guide you effortlessly. This is what Buddhists call right mindfulness, being fully aware of what is without judgment. When the mind becomes quiet, life reveals its own direction. You realize that the answers you were seeking through effort were always waiting in silence. The path becomes clear not because you fought for it, but because you allowed clarity to arise. The human tendency to control is rooted in fear, fear of uncertainty, fear of loss, fear of not being enough. We chase because we believe that by running, we can guarantee outcomes. But every form of control is an illusion. You can plan, but you cannot dictate timing. You can prepare, but you cannot command results. The wise understand that life's intelligence far exceeds human understanding. Sometimes what looks like delay is divine protection. Sometimes what feels like loss is the clearing of space for something greater. To flow with life is to trust that what leaves was never meant to stay, and what stays has lessons to teach you. The river does not ask, "When will I reach the ocean?" It knows the ocean is already its destiny. The same truth applies to you. Your purpose, your peace, your fulfillment, they are not things to be chased, but states to be realized. You are already moving toward your own ocean, even if you cannot see it yet. When you trust the current, you stop panicking every time the water bends or slows. You understand that the flow knows where it is going, even if you don't. There is a story told in Zen Buddhism about a monk who wanted enlightenment more than anything. He practiced day and night, meditated for hours, and disciplined himself harshly. But his teacher saw that the student's desire had become a form of greed. He was chasing awakening the same way others chase wealth or fame. One day, the master took him to a still pond. He asked the student to look at his reflection. The surface of the water was calm, and his face appeared clear. Then the master threw a pebble into the pond, creating ripples that distorted the image. "Do you see how the reflection disappears when the water is disturbed?" he asked. Enlightenment is your reflection. The more you stir the water with your impatience, the less you can see. Be still, and it will reveal itself. That story captures the essence of flow. When you stop forcing, clarity emerges naturally. Forcing disturbs the waters of the mind. Patience allows the truth to surface. This does not mean you stop acting. It means you act from presence, not pressure. You move with awareness, not desperation. When your actions arise from calmness, they are guided by wisdom. When they arise from fear, they create suffering. Modern life encourages the opposite of flow. Everything around you says you must hurry, push, achieve, outperform. But if you look closely, you will notice that rushing rarely leads to true fulfillment. It leads to burnout, disconnection, and anxiety. The constant need to do and to have creates a perpetual cycle of restlessness. You become addicted to progress, unable to sit in the stillness of the present. Yet the Buddha's path begins with stillness, with mindfulness, breathing, and being. Through that stillness, energy returns. Through that energy, right action arises. Flow is born from peace, not pressure. Let us consider nature once more. Trees do not rush to grow. They expand silently toward the sun. They do not force their leaves to appear. They trust the seasons. When the time is right, blossoms emerge. The same intelligence that governs the trees governs your life. You are part of that same natural order. When you force, you disconnect from that wisdom. When you flow, you become its expression. There is also a deeper level to the law of flow. It operates not only in outer life, but within consciousness itself. Thoughts and emotions flow naturally when you do not resist them. But the moment you judge or suppress them, you create internal blockages. To live in flow means to let even your inner world move freely. When anger arises, observe it. When sadness visits, feel it. When joy blooms, appreciate it without clinging. In this way, the mind remains open, the heart remains light, and the spirit remains unburdened. The flow of life outside you is mirrored by the flow within you. Flow also requires surrender, not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of giving in to reality. Surrender is acceptance without complaint. It is saying, "This is what is," and responding with wisdom rather than resistance. When you surrender to the moment, you merge with the energy of life itself. You stop fighting the current and become the current. From that state, your actions no longer come from egoic will, but from universal will. Things begin to happen through you, not by you. You become an instrument of the greater harmony that moves all beings. There is an ancient Buddhist saying, "When you let go of the rope, the knot unties itself." This is the heart of flow. You cannot untangle your life by pulling harder. You must loosen your grip and let the knots dissolve in their own time. Every time you resist what is, you tighten the rope. Every time you breathe and accept, you release it. Over time, the tension dissolves and clarity returns. Patience is also a form of flow. In the West, patience is often misunderstood as waiting reluctantly. But in Buddhism, patience, kshanti, is the strength to remain calm amid delay or discomfort. It is the understanding that life's timing cannot be forced. Just as a seed must rest in darkness before it sprouts, some aspects of your life need stillness before growth. Impatience digs up the seed before it can bloom. Flow nurtures it quietly until it is ready. One of the most beautiful aspects of flow is that it aligns you with synchronicity. When you stop forcing, you begin to attract what belongs to you. You notice doors opening, people appearing, opportunities aligning, not because you chased them, but because your energy became receptive. You are no longer sending mixed signals of fear and control. Instead, you radiate calm trust, which naturally draws harmony toward you. The universe, after all, mirrors your inner state. If you are restless, it will reflect chaos. If you are still, it will reflect order. This is why meditation is central to Buddhist practice. It is the daily training in flow. Each breath teaches you to receive and release, to inhale and exhale without clinging. You learn that life itself is this rhythm. Everything that comes must eventually go, and everything that goes creates space for something new. When you meditate, you step into that eternal dance of letting go and receiving. You discover that nothing needs to be chased because everything is already moving in divine timing. The law of flow also teaches compassion. When you stop forcing your own life, you stop forcing others. You let them grow, change, and awaken in their own time. You realize that everyone is walking their path of causes and conditions. Judgment fades and understanding deepens. This is how harmony spreads, first within you, then around you. There will be times when life slows down, when things seem to stop moving. Do not mistake that stillness for stagnation. Even when the river appears calm, currents move beneath the surface. Even when nothing seems to be happening, transformation is occurring in unseen dimensions. Flow does not mean constant motion. It means continuous presence. It means being fully alive to the unfolding of each moment, whether it is vibrant or silent. If you ever feel lost, remember the river. It never hurries, yet it reaches the sea. You are that river. Life knows your destination better than you do. Trust its course. Let it carry you through bends, storms, and sunlight alike. You will find that what you once chased begins to meet you halfway. Opportunities, peace, and love come naturally to those who stop demanding them. The law of flow ensures that nothing truly meant for you can pass you by, and nothing not meant for you can stay. All you must do is remain open, aware, and patient. When you live in flow, you live in freedom. The burden of control dissolves. The anxiety of timing disappears. You become one with life, and life begins to move through you like music through an instrument. Every moment becomes meaningful, not because you forced it, but because you finally learned how to allow it. So, breathe deeply and ask yourself, what am I still forcing? What am I trying to make happen before it's time? Can I trust that what is mine is already on its way? The more you relax into these questions, the more you'll feel the current of life carrying you gently forward. If this teaching has touched your heart and reminded you of the peace that comes from trust, remember, your journey toward awakening is meant to be shared. Subscribe to the channel, stay connected to this flow of wisdom, and allow each lesson to guide you deeper into harmony with the life you already have. The power of stillness, the doorway to true alignment. There comes a time in every seeker's journey when striving turns into silence, when movement gives way to stillness, and the mind, once restless in its search, begins to settle into the quiet recognition that everything it was chasing was always within. In Buddhism, stillness is not the absence of life, it is the essence of life. It is the sacred space where awareness unfolds, truth reveals itself, and harmony replaces chaos. The Buddha himself reached enlightenment not through endless activity, but through deep stillness beneath the Bodhi tree. It was not in doing more that he awakened, but in stopping completely, in letting go of every idea, every attachment, every chase. In that profound stillness, he realized the nature of all things. The power of stillness is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of the spiritual path. Many believe that peace is something to be achieved after solving every problem, completing every task, or reaching every goal. But stillness is not a reward for effort. It's the ground of being that supports all existence. It is the natural state of the awakened mind. The restlessness that drives us to chase is simply the noise of the ego, the illusion that life must be conquered or completed. But life does not need to be conquered. It needs to be experienced. To embrace stillness is to reverse the modern condition of constant agitation. The world thrives on distraction, endless notifications, desires, comparisons, and noise. Every voice tells you that you must do more, have more, become more. Yet in the pursuit of more, people lose the ability to be. When you sit in silence and stop forcing, you begin to hear the quiet voice of truth that has always been speaking. It whispers that peace is not found in movement, but in presence. Stillness is where alignment begins. Alignment does not come from the effort to control external circumstances, but from harmonizing your inner world with the truth of existence. When the mind becomes still, the heart begins to align naturally with what is real. It is as if you've been swimming in turbulent waters and finally you reach the shore. The waves no longer toss you from one emotion to another. You can finally stand firm and breathe. This is the foundation of Buddhist practice, learning to stop the inner chase long enough to experience the calm center that was never lost. When the Buddha spoke of samadhi, he referred to this profound state of stillness and concentration where the mind rests completely, free from the constant pull of desires and fears. It is not a state of unconsciousness, but of heightened awareness. In stillness, you do not fall asleep. You awaken. You begin to perceive the subtle interconnectedness of everything. How thoughts arise and fade, how emotions move like clouds across the sky, and how peace exists beneath it all untouched. This kind of stillness cannot be forced. It is not achieved by willpower or technique alone. It arises naturally when resistance ends. When you stop chasing experiences, when you release your attachment to pleasure and your aversion to pain, when you no longer demand that life conform to your expectations, stillness emerges like a clear lake after a storm. The surface becomes calm, and in that calmness, you can finally see the reflection of truth. Stillness also reveals the illusions created by desire. Every chase begins with the thought that something is missing. Desire whispers that peace lies just beyond reach, in a new relationship, a higher income, a different body, or a greater achievement. Yet the more you chase, the more distant peace becomes. Stillness exposes this illusion. It shows you that what you were looking for was never outside of you. When you stop moving, you see that the treasure you were seeking was hidden in the silence of your own heart. The world often mistakes stillness for stagnation, but in truth, stillness is the most dynamic state of being. It is the birthplace of insight, creativity, and wisdom. Like the seed resting in the soil, all growth begins in stillness. The seed does not rush to sprout. It remains in darkness until the right conditions arrive. Similarly, the soul needs stillness to germinate its potential. When you sit in silence, You give your consciousness the space to expand. Thoughts settle, clarity rises, and intuition awakens. In Zen practice, students are often taught to sit just to sit. This means to sit without expectation, without goal, without trying to achieve any particular state. It sounds simple, but it is profoundly difficult for the modern mind. The ego constantly demands movement, to fix, to plan, to improve. But in true meditation, you drop the illusion that you are the doer. You simply exist. You watch the breath come and go. You witness thoughts arise and dissolve. Slowly, you realize that behind the movement of the mind, there is an unmoving awareness that has never changed. That awareness is who you are. When you discover this awareness, life becomes lighter. You are no longer trapped in the urgency of doing. You act when action is needed and rest when rest is natural. You trust the rhythm of being. This is the true meaning of alignment. Not to manipulate life into order, but to align yourself with the order that already exists. It is like tuning an instrument to the frequency of the universe. When you are in tune, everything you play becomes harmonious. Stillness also transforms your relationship with time. In chasing, you live in the future, constantly reaching for what's next. In regret, you live in the past. But in stillness, you experience the eternal now, where all moments converge. The present moment is not just a point between past and future, it is the only real dimension. The past is memory and the future is imagination, but the now is truth. Every teaching of the Buddha points to this. Liberation is found in presence. When you truly rest in stillness, you discover that problems begin to dissolve on their own. The mind, when calm, becomes capable of seeing solutions that were invisible amid chaos. This is why the greatest clarity often arises in silence. In forcing, you close doors. In stillness, you allow them to open naturally. The mind that chases cannot see clearly because it is clouded by expectation. The mind that rests sees the path unfold step by step. Consider the image of a lake at dawn. The water is calm, the air is cool, and the reflection of the rising sun shimmers across its surface. This is the symbol of the awakened mind. Silent, yet radiant. No chase, no force, no demand, only presence. From that stillness, every action becomes sacred because it arises from awareness rather than from fear or desire. When you act from stillness, your actions are effortless and precise, guided by intuition rather than impulse. Stillness also teaches humility. When you stop forcing and simply observe, you realize how small your control truly is. You see that the universe has been functioning perfectly long before you arrived and will continue long after you're gone. The sun rises, the rain falls, and life continues without your interference. This realization is not depressing, it is liberating. It frees you from the illusion of being the center of everything. You are part of a vast, intelligent whole. In stillness, you align with that intelligence, and peace replaces anxiety. The practice of stillness also requires courage. To be still is to face yourself without distraction. It is to encounter your fears, your emptiness, your loneliness, and your longing. This is why many avoid silence. It reveals what constant activity keeps hidden. But when you stay, when you breathe through the discomfort instead of running from it, the pain begins to transform. You discover that the emptiness you feared is not a void, but a doorway. It opens to something vast, timeless, and compassionate, your true nature. Stillness allows the heart to expand beyond the limits of self. When the mind quiets, the boundaries between me and you dissolve. You begin to feel connected to all beings. Compassion arises effortlessly because you sense that everything shares the same essence. In this sense, stillness is not isolation, it is union. It brings you into oneness with existence. You no longer see yourself as separate from life, but as life itself, breathing and evolving in countless forms. This state of inner peace does not mean that life stops bringing challenges, but in stillness, challenges no longer define you. You respond rather than react. You see that every situation, pleasant or painful, carries a lesson meant to deepen your awareness. Even suffering becomes a teacher. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But instead, "What is this moment showing me?" That question transforms everything. When you stop chasing and begin living from stillness, even waiting becomes sacred. You realize that nothing is truly delayed. It is simply unfolding at its proper pace. The flower does not bloom because it wants to. It blooms because it is time. You too will bloom when your moment comes. Stillness helps you trust that timing. It teaches you that your only responsibility is to stay present and open, to nurture your inner soil, and to let life handle the rest. In the silence of stillness, gratitude naturally arises. You begin to appreciate the simple things, the rhythm of your breath, the sound of rain, the warmth of sunlight. These moments of quiet appreciation are gateways to enlightenment. You understand that joy was never hidden. It was simply drowned out by noise. When the noise fades, joy returns like a forgotten melody. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on earth." That is the essence of stillness. It brings you back to the miracle of being here, now. You realize that enlightenment is not a distant mountain, but the very ground beneath your feet. Every breath, every sound, every heartbeat becomes a teacher when seen through the eyes of stillness. Stillness is the practice that ends the chase, because it reveals the futility of searching for what you already are. You do not find peace. You uncover it. You do not chase truth. You awaken to it. The more you settle into this awareness, the more life aligns effortlessly around you. Relationships improve, creativity flows, and abundance arrives. Not because you forced them, but because you finally became a vessel through which harmony could move. The ancient masters used to say that when the student stops seeking, the master appears. The master is not always a person. It is the wisdom of life itself, ready to guide you once you become still enough to listen. Everything you need to know, everything you need to become, already exists within your consciousness. Stillness is the doorway to that realization. The power of stillness is not only spiritual, but deeply practical. In a world full of noise, those who can remain calm possess true strength. They make decisions from clarity, not confusion. They see patterns others miss. They remain grounded amid storms. Such stillness becomes an anchor for others, a silent teaching more powerful than words. To live this way, you must cultivate inner silence daily. Set aside moments to simply breathe, to observe, to listen without the need to respond. The more you practice stillness, the more it expands into your entire life. Conversations become slower, actions become mindful, and the mind becomes lighter. Eventually, stillness stops being something you practice and becomes who you are. When stillness becomes your nature, you no longer chase after peace. Peace follows you. You no longer seek love. Love radiates from you. You no longer strive for success. Your calm presence draws it naturally. Everything you once thought you had to pursue begins to find its way to you, because you have become aligned with the flow of existence. In this sacred silence, you discover your true self, not the identity shaped by the world, but the timeless awareness that watches the world unfold. This self needs nothing, fears nothing, and lacks nothing. It is complete, eternal, and free. When you live from that awareness, the chase ends completely. You walk through life not as a seeker, but as one who is found. So, let stillness be your teacher. Sit with yourself often. Watch the breath. Let thoughts pass without following them. Feel the peace that arises when you no longer resist the present. It is in that peace that life begins to reveal its hidden perfection. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs to be forced. All that you are seeking will arrive when your heart becomes quiet enough to receive it. If this message has brought peace to your mind and light to your heart, continue this journey toward awareness and inner freedom. Subscribe to the channel, stay connected to this community of awakening, and allow each moment of stillness to guide you closer to the truth you were always meant to remember. Trusting the timing of life. The art of patience and surrender. There is a quiet intelligence that governs all things, an invisible order beneath the apparent chaos of existence. The seasons know when to change, the stars know when to appear, the ocean knows when to rise and fall. Everything in nature follows a rhythm, an unfolding that is both mysterious and perfect. But the human mind, bound by impatience and the illusion of control, struggles to accept this divine timing. We want everything now. We want answers, results, outcomes, and transformations immediately. Yet the more we rush life, the more we move out of harmony with it. Buddhism teaches that one of the greatest acts of wisdom is to trust the timing of life, to surrender to the pace at which existence unfolds. When we learn patience, we enter into the natural rhythm of being, and we discover that everything happens exactly when it should, not a moment sooner or later. Patience is not passivity, it is profound trust. It is the faith that what is meant for you will never miss you, and what is not meant for you cannot stay. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha reminds us that patience is the highest ascetic practice. Why? Because to be patient is to let go of the ego's demand for control. It is to recognize that you are not the master of time, but a participant in its unfolding. When you trust the timing of your life, you are no longer fighting against the current of what is. You begin to float with it, allowing it to carry you exactly where you are meant to go. The problem is that impatience disguises itself as ambition, and control disguises itself as responsibility. You tell yourself that you must force things to happen, that your effort will make life bend to your will. But the truth is that the universe does not obey your ego. It responds to your alignment. When you act from desperation, you create resistance. When you act from trust, you move in harmony. There is a great difference between inspired action and forced action. Inspired action arises from inner peace. It feels effortless, natural, and clear. Forced action arises from fear. It feels heavy, anxious, and uncertain. One comes from faith, the other from doubt. The great challenge of the spiritual path is learning to wait without losing faith. The Buddha's teachings emphasize the middle way, the balance between effort and surrender. You must do what is in your power, but you must also know when to step back. There are moments when the most powerful thing you can do is to stop trying to control and simply allow. This is not laziness, but wisdom. It is understanding that life often works in silence, preparing the way long before the results are visible. Just because you cannot see the flower does not mean the seed is not growing. To trust life's timing is to live with awareness that everything has its own season. Some seasons are for growth, others for rest. Some are for learning, others for letting go. When you try to make summer happen in winter, you suffer. But when you accept the season you are in, you find peace even in the waiting. You realize that patience is not empty, it is full of unseen transformation. Just as a caterpillar must dissolve into nothing before it can become a butterfly, there are times when your life must fall apart so something higher can emerge. The waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. Often impatience arises because we compare our journey to others. We look at someone else's success, relationship, or progress and wonder why our time hasn't come yet. But comparison is a thief of peace. No two lives unfold the same way because no two souls have the same purpose. Your path is uniquely designed for your evolution. When you rush to match another's pace, you step out of your own alignment. The tree does not envy the flower, nor does the flower envy the mountain. Each fulfills its destiny by being what it is in its own time. When you begin to trust, you notice that everything in your life has happened with purpose, even the delays, even the losses. The moments that once felt like setbacks reveal themselves as necessary turns on your path. The relationship that ended taught you love. The failure that broke you taught you humility. The time you spent waiting taught you strength. Nothing was wasted. Life's timing may not match your plans, but it always serves your growth. The universe does not operate on human schedules. It moves according to divine order. The mind, however, hates uncertainty. It wants to know. It wants guarantees. This is why surrender feels difficult. It requires faith without evidence. But this is precisely where spiritual maturity begins. When you can walk without seeing the entire path, when you can wait without anxiety, when you can trust without proof, that is the mark of awakening. The Buddha described faith, saddha, as a tranquil confidence in the truth of the Dharma, even when circumstances appear unclear. It is a calm knowing that reality unfolds perfectly, even when the ego cannot understand it. Trusting life does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what you can with mindfulness and allowing the rest to unfold. When a farmer plants seeds, he does not pull at them to make them grow faster. He waters, tends, and protects them, but he knows that growth takes time. You too must become that farmer of your own destiny. Plant the seeds of right intention, right action, and right thought, and then release attachment to the outcome. You will find that when you no longer demand results, they begin to appear naturally. The greatest peace arises when you stop asking, when? The question, when, comes from fear that life is not moving fast enough. But the truth is that life is always moving, even when you feel stuck. There are invisible forces aligning opportunities, healing wounds, preparing connections, and shaping you into who you need to become to receive what you desire. Every delay serves a purpose. If you received everything you wanted immediately, you would not have the depth or wisdom to sustain it. Life gives you what you are ready for, not what you think you want. Patience teaches humility, the recognition that you are not separate from the greater order of existence. You are not an isolated being making random choices. You are part of a vast web of interdependence. Every person you meet, every situation you face, every challenge you endure is woven into this web. When something does not happen as you expect, it is not a mistake. It is the universe adjusting its threads. There is no accident, only timing. There is a saying in Zen, "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." To bend is to trust. To resist is to break. The more flexible you become in life, the more peace you experience. Flexibility comes from trust, the understanding that everything changes and that change is not an enemy, but a guide. The moment you surrender to change, you begin to see the hidden wisdom behind it. You realize that loss is not always loss. It is sometimes liberation. Delays are not denials. They are divine detours. What you thought was rejection was protection. Many people mistake surrender for weakness, but surrender is the highest form of strength. It takes great courage to say, "I trust." It takes great wisdom to stop struggling against what is. The Buddha's enlightenment came not through conquest, but through complete surrender. Under the Bodhi tree, he stopped fighting his mind, stopped seeking escape, and sat in total acceptance. It was in that surrender that truth revealed itself. In your own life, enlightenment happens in small ways, every time you choose to release control and allow life to unfold. There will be moments when waiting feels unbearable, when silence stretches too long and uncertainty feels like an endless night. In those moments, return to your breath. The breath is the rhythm of life itself. Inhale, exhale, expansion, contraction. It is the simplest reminder that life moves in cycles. There is always movement, even when you cannot see it. When you align your breath with trust, anxiety begins to dissolve. You remember that just as the breath comes without effort, so too do the answers, opportunities, and blessings of life. Trust also deepens your connection with intuition. When you are no longer rushing or forcing, you can hear the subtle guidance of your inner voice. This guidance is not logical but intuitive, a quiet knowing that whispers, "Wait," or "Now." When you ignore this inner wisdom in your impatience, you create unnecessary struggle. When you listen, you move in harmony with timing. The more you trust, the clearer this inner voice becomes. It is life itself speaking through you. The greatest paradox of surrender is that it does not make you powerless, it makes you powerful. When you stop fighting life, you conserve energy. That energy becomes clarity, presence, and strength. You act with precision rather than desperation. You see opportunities others miss because your vision is not clouded by fear. You realize that patience is not waiting passively. It is active awareness. It is engaging with each moment fully, knowing that this moment is part of the greater unfolding. Everything you desire already exists in potential form. The timing of its manifestation depends not on how hard you chase it, but on your readiness to receive it. Readiness comes through patience, growth, and trust. The universe does not withhold, it synchronizes. When your inner state aligns with what you seek, manifestation becomes effortless. Until then, patience shapes you into the person capable of holding what is coming. In the silence of waiting, transformation happens. You shed old beliefs, heal wounds, and learn lessons that no book or teacher could give. The waiting itself becomes sacred. You begin to see time not as an enemy, but as an ally, a teacher that knows exactly when to reveal what you need. In trusting this, you free yourself from the constant pressure of should and must. You stop chasing and start living. To live in trust is to live in gratitude. Gratitude turns waiting into peace. When you are thankful for what you already have, you send a signal of abundance to the universe. Gratitude tells life, "I am ready for more because I see the beauty of now." Impatience says, "I lack." Gratitude says, "I have." The energy of "I have" attracts more of what is aligned. The energy of "I lack" repels it. This is why the most peaceful souls are often the most fulfilled. They are not waiting for life to begin. They are living it now. In trusting the timing of your life, you also learn to release regret. Everything that has already happened was necessary for your growth. Every closed door redirected you. Every pain purified you. Every ending prepared you. The mind likes to say, "If only I had done this differently," but life never makes mistakes. The path you walked was the path you needed. Trusting the timing of the past allows you to make peace with it. Trusting the timing of the future allows you to walk forward without fear. To surrender is to fall into the arms of existence, to stop resisting what is already holding you. You realize that the same intelligence that makes your heart beat and your lungs breathe is guiding your journey. You don't have to manage every detail, you only have to stay awake. In wakefulness, you see the signs, hear the whispers, and feel the gentle push of life guiding you forward. One day, you will look back and see how everything was orchestrated perfectly, how every delay, every detour, every silence was necessary. You will smile at the moments when you doubted, realizing that even your doubts were part of the dance. Life has never been against you. It has always been shaping you, molding you, teaching you to trust. The great teacher Ajahn Chah once said, "If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will have complete peace." That is the secret of trusting the timing of life. The more you release your need to control, the more you experience the peace that was waiting beneath the struggle. Life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. You are not late, you are not early, you are right on time, and so every moment becomes sacred. You stop rushing toward tomorrow because you finally understand that the present is the only time that truly exists. In the present, there is no lack, no hurry, no fear. There is only awareness, the same awareness that guided the Buddha, the same awareness that breathes through you now. So, when the urge to chase returns, remember this truth. Nothing meant for you will ever require you to beg, rush, or force. What is yours by alignment will come with ease. Your only task is to stay patient, stay faithful, and stay awake. Life knows the way. It always has. If this message has reminded you to breathe, to slow down, and to trust the quiet rhythm of your own journey, then stay connected to this space of reflection and wisdom. Subscribe to the channel, continue walking this path of serenity, and let each lesson remind you that everything you seek will arrive, not when you demand it, but when you are truly ready to receive it. Receiving without chasing. The peaceful art of allowing. There is a profound shift that happens when one stops chasing and starts receiving. The energy that once ran outward in pursuit turns inward, becoming calm, grounded, and full. What once felt like a desperate grasping at life transforms into a peaceful openness to what life offers. This is the essence of allowing, the art of receiving without demand, of opening the heart without fear, and of trusting that what belongs to you will never need to be hunted down. In Buddhist wisdom, this is the culmination of all the teachings we have explored: non-attachment, flow, stillness, and trust, all merging into one sacred understanding that life itself is constantly giving. The only reason we do not feel it is because we are too busy trying to take. Allowing is not passivity. It is the active participation in the rhythm of the universe without trying to dominate it. It is listening instead of insisting, watching instead of controlling. It is recognizing that the same intelligence that opens a flower also opens the paths of your destiny. In the heart of allowing, you discover that you are not separate from life, but one with its unfolding. You no longer live as someone who must make things happen. You live as someone through whom things happen naturally. In chasing, there is fear. In receiving, there is faith. Fear says, "I must make this happen, or it will never come." Faith says, "What is meant for me cannot miss me." The difference between these two is everything. When you live through fear, you are in constant struggle, because fear breeds resistance. Every thought becomes heavy with expectation. Every delay feels like a failure, and every silence feels like abandonment. But when you live through faith, you rest in the flow of life. You no longer need to grasp. You understand that everything that is truly yours is already on its way, drawn to you not by effort but by resonance. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of right understanding. He taught that suffering arises when we cling to what is impermanent or chase what is not yet ours. The antidote is awareness, seeing clearly that nothing needs to be forced. When you are aware, you begin to recognize that every experience, every encounter, every event comes with its own purpose and timing. You no longer measure your worth by what you have or haven't achieved. You find joy in being, not in getting. You begin to live in harmony with what is, instead of constantly reaching for what might be. Allowing is an act of surrender, but not the kind that gives up. It is the kind that gives in to the wisdom of existence, to the intelligence of your own soul. You begin to realize that the universe does not withhold anything from you. It mirrors you. When you are calm, it reflects peace. When you are grateful, it reflects abundance. When you are open, it reflects opportunity. The state of your inner world determines the quality of what you receive. This is the great secret that many overlook while chasing. You cannot receive what you are not aligned with. The more you chase, the more you affirm that you do not have. The more you allow, the more you affirm that you already do. The law of resonance operates quietly behind all appearances. Every thought and emotion carries a vibration, and that vibration calls forth experiences that match it. When you chase something, your vibration is one of lack and need. When you trust and open, your vibration is one of fullness and readiness. Thus, what you seek begins to move toward you naturally. Receiving requires stillness, because only in stillness can you feel what is being offered. Just as you cannot catch the reflection of the moon in turbulent water, you cannot receive the gifts of life when your mind is in turmoil. The teachings of mindfulness remind us to pause, breathe, and become aware of the moment as it is. In that awareness, you begin to notice how much life is already giving. The air, the warmth of the sun, the people who cross your path, the lessons in your challenges. Every breath is a gift, yet most go unnoticed because the mind is too busy chasing the next one. When you truly learn to receive, gratitude becomes your natural state. Gratitude transforms receiving from a passive act into a sacred exchange. It says to the universe, "I see your gifts and I am worthy of them." Many struggle with receiving because they secretly believe they are not worthy of what life has to offer. They feel unprepared for abundance, undeserving of love, or unqualified for peace. But the truth is that worthiness is not something you earn. It is something you remember. You were born deserving because you were born part of the whole. The ocean does not question whether it deserves the rain. It simply receives it. To receive without chasing, you must cultivate openness. Openness is the willingness to let go of fixed expectations and let life surprise you. The mind loves plans, but the heart loves mystery. When you live only from the mind, you try to control every outcome. When you live from the heart, you allow life to unfold in ways beyond your imagination. Sometimes the blessings you seek come disguised as loss, and the miracles you wait for arrive in unexpected forms. To receive is to trust that even when life does not give you what you asked for, it is still giving you what you need. Consider the story of a monk who spent years praying for enlightenment. Every day he meditated, fasted, and disciplined himself, waiting for a grand revelation. One morning, exhausted, he gave up. He sat quietly by the river, watching the sunlight dance on the surface. In that moment of surrender, something inside him opened. Not a flash of lightning, not a voice from heaven, but a simple knowing. I am already what I was seeking. Enlightenment had arrived not through striving, but through allowing. This is how receiving works. It happens when you stop demanding and start listening, when you stop running and start resting. The art of allowing also changes how you approach relationships. Most suffering in love comes from chasing affection, attention, validation. But love, like all sacred things, cannot be forced. It can only be invited. When you allow others to be who they are without trying to make them fit your desires, love becomes free, and freedom deepens connection. Real love flows toward authenticity, not demand. When you stop chasing love, you discover that it was always present. Sometimes in silence, sometimes in solitude, sometimes in unexpected faces. The same principle applies to success, purpose, and happiness. The moment you stop chasing them as external goals and start living from inner alignment, they begin to manifest effortlessly. Success is not something to pursue. It is something you allow by becoming the person who naturally expresses it. Happiness is not something to hunt. It is what remains when the chase ends. The Buddha never said that life was about achieving happiness. He said that life was about understanding the causes of suffering And once those causes, craving, ignorance, and attachment are released, happiness arises naturally, like the sun shining when clouds part. Allowing also means accepting the present moment as it is. You stop arguing with what is happening. You stop saying, "This should not be this way." Acceptance is the foundation of peace. When you resist reality, you suffer. When you accept it, you flow. Acceptance does not mean you like everything that happens. It means you understand that everything has its place in your evolution. Even pain becomes sacred when seen as part of your awakening. Through acceptance, you learn that receiving is not only about pleasant things, it is about embracing the totality of life. One of the deepest forms of receiving is forgiveness. To forgive is to release the heavy armor of resentment and allow healing to enter. You cannot receive peace if you hold on to anger. You cannot receive love if your heart is closed with judgment. Forgiveness opens the door to life again. It is not a gift you give to others, it is a liberation you grant yourself. When you forgive, you stop chasing justice or revenge. You allow balance to restore itself naturally. The universe does not forget. It harmonizes. You need not force that harmony. You only need to stop obstructing it. When you begin to live in a state of allowing, you realize that abundance is not something distant. It is everywhere. In opportunities, in connections, in insights, in the smallest moments. The more you notice it, the more it expands. Awareness magnifies abundance. The universe is infinitely generous, but it respects the boundaries of your openness. If your heart is closed with fear, nothing can enter. If your mind is full of doubt, wisdom cannot speak. Allowing is emptying yourself enough to make space for life to pour in. This emptiness is not lack, it is readiness. It is the same emptiness that the Buddha spoke of when he described sunyata, the state of inner spaciousness free from clinging. In that emptiness, all things are possible. You become like a cup, useful because it is empty. When you stop filling yourself with worry, desire, and resistance, life fills you with grace. This is the paradox of the spiritual path. The less you try to possess, the more you receive. The practice of allowing can be cultivated in everyday life through awareness. When you wake in the morning, instead of rushing into action, pause and feel the gift of breath. When a challenge arises, instead of reacting, observe what it has to teach. When an opportunity appears, say yes with gratitude but without fear. And when nothing seems to happen, rest in patience. Every moment offers something to receive, a lesson, a beauty, a chance to awaken. The more you practice this, the more your life begins to feel like a dance rather than a race. Receiving without chasing also transforms your inner dialogue. You stop speaking to yourself from scarcity and start speaking from sufficiency. Instead of saying, "I need this to be happy," you begin to say, "I am happy, and therefore I attract what reflects that happiness." You shift from the vibration of wanting to the vibration of being. This is the deepest transformation of all. To realize that you already are what you seek. You are not incomplete. You are unfolding. You are not lacking. You are learning to recognize your own abundance. Even in the smallest details, allowing brings serenity. You stop fighting with traffic delays or people's behavior. You begin to see everything as part of your spiritual training. Life becomes a teacher, and every event becomes a classroom. When you live this way, you cannot lose. You either get what you want, or you learn what you need. Both are gifts. This is the essence of receiving. Gratitude for all forms of giving, visible or invisible. As you walk through the world with this awareness, you become magnetic. People feel peace in your presence, because you are no longer grasping at them. Opportunities flow to you because you radiate calmness and trust. The universe responds to energy, and nothing is more powerful than the energy of one who is in harmony with life. To receive without chasing is to stand in the truth that you and life are not separate, that what you seek is already seeking you. There is a beautiful image in Buddhist thought of the open hand versus the closed fist. The closed fist represents clinging, fear, and control. The open hand represents trust, generosity, and receptivity. When your hand is open, you can receive. When it is closed, even what is meant for you cannot enter. Life gives continuously. You only need to open your hand. Sometimes, the most profound receiving happens in silence. In meditation, when the mind stops chasing thoughts, wisdom arises naturally. You realize that truth cannot be hunted down by thought. It must be received in stillness. This is why the great teachers of the East speak so often of quietness. The quieter you become, the more you hear. The more you hear, the more you understand. The more you understand, the more peace becomes your natural state. In allowing, you rediscover simplicity. You no longer need complicated philosophies or strategies to be at peace. You simply live each moment with awareness, gratitude, and surrender. You begin to see the beauty of ordinary things, the sound of wind, the laughter of a stranger, the stillness of night. Life stops being something to manage and becomes something to marvel at. Eventually, allowing becomes your very nature. You no longer have to remind yourself to trust or to be patient. You simply are. The chase is over because the chaser has dissolved. What remains is presence, pure, spacious, radiant. You realize that you never needed to control life because life was never against you. Every step, every delay, every detour was part of your awakening. You were always on time. When this realization settles into your being, a deep peace arises. Not the temporary peace that comes from achieving something, but the eternal peace that comes from being aligned with truth. You see that nothing external can add to or subtract from that peace. Whether life gives or takes, you remain steady because your happiness no longer depends on circumstance. This is liberation. The freedom the Buddha spoke of, the end of suffering. To receive without chasing is to live in grace. It is to recognize that existence itself is benevolent. You do not have to struggle to be supported. You are already supported. You do not have to beg for love. You are made of love. You do not have to earn peace. You are peace remembering itself. The only task is to stay open, awake, and grateful. So as you sit here, let this truth sink deeply into your heart. You are not behind, you are not lacking, and you are not forgotten. Everything meant for you is moving toward you even now in ways you cannot yet see. The river of life never stops flowing, and when you stop chasing, you finally feel its current carrying you gently home. Allow this awareness to be your daily practice. When you catch yourself running after something, pause and breathe. Ask, what am I afraid to lose? Then release the fear. Return to stillness. Return to trust. Return to allowing. You will find that what you were chasing begins to arrive effortlessly, not because you forced it, but because you became a space wide enough to receive it. And when it comes, as it surely will, receive it with humility and gratitude. Know that you did not make it happen. You simply aligned yourself with the rhythm of the universe. That rhythm will continue to guide you, to nourish you, and to remind you that peace is not at the end of the chase. It is the moment you stop running. If this reflection has touched your heart and reminded you of the gentle power of allowing, continue walking this path of awareness and freedom. Subscribe to the channel. Stay connected to these teachings and let every word guide you deeper into the art of receiving, where chasing ends and peace begins.